So I'm going to caveat all of this with I am not an expert. All of this has been self-taught. So I know what I have learned from watching YouTube videos, but if you ask me the details of how something works, I might not be able to answer you on that, but I'll tell you what I know. So I mentioned, that I basically taught myself how to do all of this by watching YouTube videos. But part of the thing you do want to consider when you're shooting videos is your setup before you get to the editing stage. And there are a few basic things that can really improve the quality of your videos. To start with, get a tripod. They are very cheap on Amazon, and you can find ones that come with a little holder on top that will fit a cell phone. There also are a few that will fit tablets as well. We found that most cell phones have a pretty decent camera on them, so that's what we've been using. But you could certainly, purchase a video camera as well and use that instead. The second thing, because someone's unmuted here. There we go. The second thing that really helps is having an external microphone, because while the video and the quality from a camera is pretty good, its microphone is very limiting. So you want to look at having some kind of external microphone. For us, we found that a shotgun or directional microphone is very easy to use. It can be mounted above the cell phone on the tripod. And the one that we purchased comes with both a foam windscreen and a furry windscreen for outdoors, which cuts down on having any wind noise in your recording as well. You might run into an issue that bottom right corner photo that looks kind of weird. That's one of the little adapters that you might need to get if you are mounting something above your cell phone on a tripod. So if you find that what you purchased can't be mounted, you might just need to spend a few bucks on an adapter, and you can search Amazon and find different ones that'll fit your needs there. Another option for a microphone is to get lapel mics that you could use, and there are ones that are wireless that have a receiver that will mount above the phone for shooting the video. We had issues with the one that we purchased where we were getting a lot of feedback noise, and I couldn't figure out how to get rid of it, so we've pretty much just used the shotgun mic. So the main things that I'm going to cover today are using Microsoft PowerPoint, using Audacity, which is the program I use for audio editing only, and then using VSDC free video editor. There is also an option because VSDC cannot be downloaded to USDA computers, where you could also use Windows 10 editor. That's not an option I will cover, but I do think the handout mentions a YouTube tutorial for that. So it should be fine for doing very simple editing if you just need to trim a video, but VSDC really has a lot more capabilities. And I mean, those capabilities can be very simple to very complex. It could be, recording your screen if you're doing a demonstration video, just trimming video, trimming the beginning or the end, or cutting something out that you don't like can be very useful. Adding basic text to a video, or like you see in this image here, where we had a video while I worked for SICM, identifying Japanese stiltgrass, and then we put a photo of stiltgrass into the video as a close-up, and then marked, an identifying feature in it. You can add pictures, background music. Maybe you don't like your video, so you just want a panning photo or a photo that slowly zooms in while you do a voiceover. Or maybe you want to do time-lapse footage to show, changes on the landscape over time. There's lots of options. So we'll start with the most basic, which is PowerPoint, and you probably all have this on your computers. PowerPoint can be used to pre-record presentations. So say you have, a PowerPoint presentation and you just want to pre-record it because you can't give it live. I did this in 2020 for a high school where obviously I couldn't go into the classroom. So I pre-recorded my presentation and uploaded it to YouTube. To pre-record a PowerPoint presentation. I don't have a live demo of this, but there is a link on the handout. You go to the slideshow tab in PowerPoint and you select record slide. It will give you options on whether you want to record audio, video, slide transitions. Maybe you don't like, recording yourself on the web camera, but you do want to record your voice, as you narrate the different slides. You have that option. You can even use, add a laser pointer or even draw on your presentation slides, and then that will be recorded. One thing to note is this essentially records each individual slide's presentation separately. So if you're talking and you're pre-recording this and you mess up on a slide, you can start over just for that slide. You don't have to go back to the entire beginning of your presentation and start over. It also means that once you're done recording this, when you bring up your PowerPoint again in editing, you'll see this little box on each slide, and it might have your picture in it if it recorded your web camera. And you can move that around, you can make it bigger, you can make it smaller, however you would like. This is what it looks like when you're pre-recording the video, and you can see that little box in the corner. With my web camera, I'd be able to change the size of that if I wanted to, or turn it off altogether if I didn't want to record myself. You have that option at the bottom to select, a highlighter or a laser pointer to point out things on the slide as you go. And then when you're done recording it, you have two options. So the one is you can save it as a normal PowerPoint file. And essentially what this does is someone would open up the file in PowerPoint and they would start it as a presentation and it would play all on its own. To do that, you would have to remember to have the options checked to play the narrations and use the timings that are pre-recorded. And this file will be very large, so it will take a while once you are done recording this to save the file. The other option, and this has a little bit more reliability, it's less likely to have issues in playback, is to just export it as its own video. To do this, you go to the File tab, and instead of just saving it, you click Export. And after clicking Export, you'll have the option to create a video and mention when you're creating a video to use the narrations and timing. And this is probably the easiest for playback. That way people don't have to make sure that they click the right things in PowerPoint to get it to play right. It's its own video file, so you could upload it to YouTube then as well. Okay, this next one is a demo that I pre-recorded for you showing how to use PowerPoint to record your screen. So don't be upset. You'll see it will start looking like a blank PowerPoint presentation. This isn't an error. This is just a recording. Okay, the first thing I'm going to show you is how to record your screen using PowerPoint. And mind you, you can also record your screen using VSDC, or how I actually prepared this recording for this PowerPoint, which was I actually started a Zoom session and recorded myself because it did a better job of recording the audio on my computer, not just my microphone. So it took me a while to figure that one out. Anyway, when you're in PowerPoint, you want to go up to the Insert tab this time. So we go to Insert, and then we want to go to Screen Recording. And after you select that, you'll see this little pop-up up top. And the first thing you want to do before you start recording is select the area to record. And you just drag and drop, whether you want to just record part of your screen or the whole thing. I'm going to do the whole thing. You can adjust whether it records your audio or records your pointer or not. That's up to you. And then we hit record. And it gives this little hint pop up there warning you. So you can use the keyboard shortcut if you want to start or stop a screen share, or if you hover towards the top, you'll see the little countdown there, and you can just pause or stop it there as well, which is what I do. And as soon as you're done with your screen recording, it automatically fills into that blank slide. You can adjust how big that video window is. You can play it. They're warning you. So you can use the keyboard shortcut if you want to start or stop a screen share. And so there you have it. You can export it just like you would your slideshow as a video if that's what you want, or you can just use it as part of your PowerPoint. Okay. All right. So this is just a summary of what that went over. You can do it as a standalone recording, or you can just have it, as one of the slides in your PowerPoint. One thing I'll note, as I mentioned in that video, is I did run into issues trying to use PowerPoint to pre-record my demos. I didn't realize that it would record my voice just fine, but if I wanted to play a video on my screen while recording it, that audio was not picked up very well. So I actually ended up having to create a little Zoom session just for myself, record my screen or share my screen and record it to be able to pick up on the audio of anything that I was playing on the computer. So someone might know more than me and know how to make that work. But if you're just recording your voice and your screen, PowerPoint works great. So the next one that we're going to go on to is Audacity. And Audacity is for audio editing, and there is a version that can be downloaded to USDA computers. So that's good to know. It is absolutely free. It is really nice to remove background noise and improve the audio quality. Even just removing background noise when you're shooting something outside makes a huge difference. And so here is another pre-recording that I made demonstrating 4 basic things to do in Audacity. The next thing we're going to look at is how to use Audacity. So when you open Audacity, there's 2 different ways that you can get a file. You can go to File and Open, or if you open a folder, you can just drag and drop your file in. Note, you must use an audio file. You cannot use a video file. So I'll show you later in BSDC how you can separate the 2 if you've shot some video footage. Let's zoom in here to the beginning. And there's 4 things that I like to do: noise reduction, notch filter, compression, and normalize. And I always leave a little bit of time at the beginning of shooting a video just to capture some ambient noise, and this is why we listen to it. Whenever you're ready.
This is an area of understory treatment for invasive species on Glendale Fish and Wildlife Area.
So you can hear we shot this in the middle of summer in southern Indiana. There's an abundance of insects and birds and everything else in the background, and it's quite loud. So the first and easiest thing, if you do nothing else, is noise reduction. So highlight an area where you just have that background noise. You can see that on the waveform, and not where someone's speaking. We will go to Effect, and then you want to select Noise Reduction. And before we can actually reduce the noise, this is getting our noise profile. It's analyzing that noise in that background there, and that's why we want it without people talking. So get noise profile, okay. Then double click to select the entire file because we want to reduce the noise, not just there, but for the entire thing. Go back to Effect, and you can hit Repeat Noise Reduction for it to immediately do it. Or you can go to where we went before, noise reduction down here. And if you wanted to, you could adjust some of these settings. I don't know too much about them. I don't even know if these are the original defaults or if they were something that I did when I was playing around with it. But if you don't get the effect that you want, you can adjust those. You can use the preview to preview noise reduction, or you can just, hit undo and try something else and compare the 2. So there you can see how that line just flattened. And if we listen to it,
whenever you're ready. This is an area of understory treatment.
It already sounds a lot better. But as you might have noticed, there's still some high-pitched insect or something that's in the background that drives people crazy. So the next thing that I didn't originally know about and I only found out a couple months ago is called notch filter. And notch filter can find those frequencies that are way off on their own, that aren't part of the normal dialogue in your video. So again, we want to highlight a small section, and sometimes it works including the audio, sometimes it doesn't. You can try it different ways and see. And instead of going to effect, we're going to go to analyze and plot spectrum. And you can see here, this plots the frequencies, that there's this peak way off to the right, all on its own. And it's really high pitched. And that's my guess for what is causing the problem in our audio. So if you move your mouse around there, you'll see, the numbers down here change. And, you want to cover around and see what that says there. Let's say about 7,500 that we want. And we'll close that. We're going to select the whole thing because, again, we want to do this to the whole audio clip. Go to Effect, and I think it's all the way down here towards the bottom, Notch Filter. And we want to type in that frequency that we had. And it doesn't need to be the exact frequency. It can be in the ballpark. If you watch videos online, I think they talk about this Q value, and you can play around with it. I believe Q goes from -1 to 1. So higher values will affect a bigger range around that frequency. If it's a very narrow peak, you might want to decrease this. Okay, now let's play that again.
Whenever you're ready. This is an area of understory treatment for invasive.
Amazing how much cleaner that audio sounds now. So the next thing we do, we still have this all highlighted. The next two are pretty simple because we're not going to play around with them too much. We go to Effect and Compressor. And again, I'm just going to leave those there. And this just boosts that audio quality.
Whenever you're ready. This is an area of understory treatment for invasive species on Glendale Fish and Wildlife area.
So that really boosts that up. The next thing is just go to Normalize. And again, I don't know if I've ever adjusted Normalize before. So this you don't have to worry too much about, and just hit OK. And it just tampers down that a little bit, makes it sound a little better.
Whenever you're ready. This is an area of understory treatment for invasive species on Glendale Fish and Wildlife area.
And there are a few other things that you can do. You can play around with it, make it just how you want. But overall, it's pretty good. Okay, so here's just a summary of those 4 things that I did. Noise reduction, notch filter if you need it, compressor, and normalize. If you watch some of the videos that are included on the handout, you'll see that there are other options as well, like graphic EQ or equalizer. And you can certainly play around with those depending how picky you are to get that audio just right. But these are the basics. And if you think it sounded too loud after we did all of that, when you are adding that audio back into your video editor, you can adjust how loud different audio tracks are. So that's not a big issue. The other thing to mention when it comes to audio is if you go to this website, and that is on the handout as well, YouTube has a free audio library, and you can find some great just instrumental music that you can play in the background. You can search, by genre, by mood. They're all free to use. There are a few of them when you select it that do ask you to include a credit, but several of them do not. So it's nice. I have a few that I've selected for my videos, from something that's calm to something that's upbeat, whether it's playing on its own or whether it is in the background behind people's voices. Okay, so now we get to the big one, and this is the VSDC free video editor. And VSDC does have a paid version. I think it is about $20 a year. And it includes a few additional features like the video stabilization tool. And I think it also includes access to, you can download the VSDC manual as opposed to just viewing it online. However, we purchased the VSDC video editor paid version last year, and it's about to expire, and I don't think we're going to re-up it. Really, most of your key features are available in the free version. The big caveat is I have to use my personal computer with this because it is not available for USDA computers. So we're going to play, this is our last demo, but it's the longest, and this goes through some basic editing in VSDC. Okay. Oh, sorry. Okay, so this is VSDC. This is what it'll look like when you first open it up. And you'll notice there are a lot of different features that they try to promote and teach you about. So there are a lot of things and capacity that you can do with this, even in the free version. You'll notice this is the Pro one. Last year we did pay for the Pro version because there are a couple of extra features that you have, such as when you go to tools here, video stabilization, which if you are not using a tripod, that can help, but it does cut out part of your video. In the end, I don't think that we will re-up this annual license. It's not that expensive, but we also really don't need it. So if you do pay for it, you just go to activation and, activate your license key there. But if we go back to projects here, you can open existing projects. You can start new projects here. I usually start by just doing import content, and we'll select the video that we want to edit here. And it'll bring this up and you can rename it. We'll say test demo. A whole bunch of information if you want. This will usually just fill in with information based on the video that you put in, which is why it's a good idea to start with a video, even if you're adding other features such as photos and other things. You can do this free configuration. Sometimes I select YouTube since that's where I will eventually export it to. And then we'll hit finish. You can also adjust if you want to do, 4K instead of full HD. I recommend doing everything at least full HD. You can export to lower qualities for some things such as Facebook. Okay, so I just had downloaded the new version of it, so this pops up. I'm going to close out of this effects window because I don't really use it. But I do want to keep the properties window up there. And you'll notice as you look around, there's a couple things to note. Up here, there are a bunch of these little toolbars, and you can move them around. You can delete them if you don't want them. All of these are also available from different drop-down menus. So for example, let's see here. The audio effects, the video effects, you can find them also under the drop-downs there as well as here. Anything that you're going to edit, you need to select first down here in the timeline. And this will start to make a little bit more sense as we add other objects to it. But this is where, if you wanted to just see what your video looks like, you would hit play. And this is a video of a Fecon destroying some autumn olive and some multiflora rose. So that audio is really loud. So there's a couple of things that we can do here. first, let's show you how to look at the audio and the video separately. So if you select Show Waveform, and let's make this bigger, and let's make the waveform bigger too, you can see the audio here. And this comes in really handy when you're trimming stuff. Now, if you want this to be bigger, we can zoom in either using this here and make it bigger, or you can also slide stuff around here to move around the timeline. And it's my favorite way of changing where you are. You'll notice if I move this thing here, and I'm sure there's a name for it, I don't remember what it is, that it moves on there. This shows, out of everything, it's a representative of what's actually showing on your screen. So if we move this, you can see it's moved out from where the cursor actually is. So the cursor is very important. I use that quite a lot. Now let's say we want to zoom in on here, and maybe someone was talking and we find that right here is where it would be a good spot to cut it. So we make sure that this is selected, that we've clicked on that. And up here, we have our cutting and splitting tools. So we could do this where we just split it in two. And now click out there so they're not selected. We could move them around independently if we wanted to. Let's undo that. Undo, undo, undo. Undo again. There we go. Okay. The other thing, if you're just trimming the beginning and the end, is you can use this little thing here. I've had mixed results with cutting out a fragment, so I just usually manually make my little cuts and then delete the fragment, but you could trim the start right there, and boom, everything before that is gone. Let's move this so it starts beginning again. The other thing, we mentioned that background noise is just horrible. So I'm going to select that, and if we go over to the properties, scroll down, and you can do two different things. So you can split the audio and video here. You can, and move them around independently. Say you're doing a voiceover of something, maybe that's useful. You can also just select that track here and say, don't use audio. And now if I play it, there's no sound anymore. So some of the next things we want to do, I'll make that a little smaller because we'll be adding some things here, are add some different elements to it. Say you want to have some photos in it, or you want to have some background music. So let's start by adding our background music. So you'll see up here, there is an add object. Oh, this wizard. You can create or bring in several items all at once using this and create transitions between them. To me, it sometimes confuses things for me a little bit more, so I don't use the wizard quite as much. I am also not an expert on having separate scenes. That is something that you could do as well. But for now, let's keep it simple. Let's add some music. So add object, and we want to add audio. And we want to have this background music that I found on YouTube. And it'll ask you where you want to put it. Say you had your cursor somewhere else, you could say, that would be important for doing it from cursor, but we're going to do it from scene begin. It's the same thing here. Add new layer, okay. And there's our music. Now if we play it, that is kind of loud. So let's select the music track, and we can go over here and you can adjust the volume up or down. This is also nice in creating a good balance between background music and someone talking as well. So I've had some pieces where I will chop up the background music specifically or do some adjustments on it so that it will get quieter when people are talking and louder at the beginning and end of the video. Let's see how loud this is. I'll do it a little bit softer. There we go. That works. Okay, so now we have some background music. How about, and I'm going to actually move this down, and you'll see why in a minute. This timeline, whatever is on the top of it, visually is on top of everything else up here. Up here you can, actually I'll show you in a minute. Let's add an image. Let's add a couple of images. We'll hold down Control and you can select multiple things to be on there. And now here's where it's asking me if I want to open it in Wizard to create transitions between them. I don't, I just want to have them added here to the timeline, and then I will work with them then. Okay, so so you can see I can select images here. On here, I almost forgot to show you the video, you can make anything as big or small as you want, move it around for how you want it to be. But what we're going to do is we are going to make an intro slide. So these arrow buttons can be used to move things on your timeline up and down, or you can also just drag and drop things as well. So I want this Fecon photo to be in my background in my first part of this before we have the actual video. And I want to have kind of a nice intro slide with some of the information about it. So we're going to actually end up putting all of these. And there's our Clean Water Indiana logo because the grant funded this. And this will look a lot better in a minute here, okay? And we'll bring the Indiana DNR logo up. They all have to be stacked on each other to appear at the same point in the video. So that's why these are all kind of getting stacked. And you'll see why I chose the white logos here in a minute. Let's line these all up. And the other thing we are going to put in here is some text. So, because we want to have, title on your title slide or beginning. Let's go to text. There we go. And yeah, we'll do it from cursor position, or we'll do it from the beginning of the scene. On here right away, you can adjust how long you want it to be. I do not want it to be 10 minutes long. Let's do 4 seconds. And you'll notice it doesn't pop up right away. This always gets me. I always forget about that. What you have to do is you have these little crosshairs and you need to drag and drop to create your text box. And you'll notice now we have a little text thing you can see down here. And we're going to take that text and you can adjust up here what color, what the background is going to be. Oh, here we go. Over in the properties window, we want the background of the text box to be filled. Yes. And what color do we want? Let's change the color to a nice green. There we go. Now it is appearing over our logos because it is on the top of the timeline. So with that selected, we can move it down so that other things appear over it. Oh, too far. There we go. We want it in front of the photo. Now, let's select the text box. And let's make it, here we go. And you could have just done a box if you didn't want any text on there too. Let's make these all a little smaller. And then let's double click and start typing. Fecon demo video. And I don't like it there. Let's move it to the center. Down a little bit. And you can highlight that. You can change the size if you want it to be bigger. You can change the font. You could make it italic. You can do whatever you'd like there. Let's maybe make this. There we go. You can align stuff as well. So say I want to make sure that this logo is aligned in the middle. Here is a quick little alignment there. And you can make this look a lot nicer, with time, however you want to have it on there. Now remember that these photos are on there for a specific amount of time. And right now, not all of these line up. I want them to be all the same. So I can select one, and if I go to its properties, it will give me the object's duration. And right now that's at 5 seconds. So let's change that to 4 exactly. And you can either manually kind of adjust these, clicking on them and dragging them, and they kind of snap into place. But if you have problems, you could just adjust it in the properties window for any of those as well. And now say I want to make sure that this video plays right after these. There are little snap things here where you can get the blocks just offset. And you can click that and it gets perfectly offset. Two other things I'm going to show you real quick are, let's see, how to speed up a video. So remember when we were watching this, it's just that really slow video. And I want to have time-lapse footage. I don't want 10 minutes of a Fecon working. So if you select your video, again, we go over to the properties window and there's a speed right here. So we can adjust that speed to make it faster or slower. 100% means it's regular full speed. Let's do 500. And that makes it 5 times as fast. Let's play that. So that's working there. Maybe I'll do a little bit faster. We'll do 600. There we go. See. There we go. That works. Now, one of the things to note when you're increasing the speed, you cannot do that if someone is talking. It does weird things to the human voice. So it works out great if you have background music like this. You could also make something slower as well. Now, the last thing we're going to look at is going to be the transition, because if we play this, let me show you how this is going to work from the beginning. So that jump there was no transition from that opening screen to the next one. Say you want them to fade. If you select an object, we'll do the big picture down there because that'll show the easiest. And you can do effects on that. So for video effects, transforms. Transparency, that's the one that we want. So transparency, we want it to fade out. And the default for fade out is going to the scene end. And you'll notice down here, suddenly there are more tabs. There's our scene tab where we're working with the object. And then if you double click that object, it goes to this tab, which shows any of the effects on that. So this default here is the fade out length, which is 3 seconds for, oh, no, creation time, sorry. Duration is 1 second. You can adjust that if you want. I have before to things that look best, or you can just leave it at the default. And you can a cheater method here, instead of selecting all these other ones and doing that for them, is if you select this fade out and Control C, I'm going to copy it. And then I'm going to paste individually, Control V, into each of these fade outs that are the same. There we go. So now when we play this, they should all fade out. There we go. Now some people will adjust things on the bottom here so that when they fade out, the thing that they are replacing is already in the background. So I'll slide that over just a little bit. And let's see how that makes a difference. Not sure if you guys noticed the difference there, but it does look good in the final video. And when you run the wizard or sprite, that's what it kind of automatically does. So those, I think, are all the basics that I wanted to show you here. Let's adjust this thing here, or the audio, so it is the same. And let's trim that. Trim end, so it's the same. And we'll do, here, we'll show you the audio effects real quick on fade out to the scene end. Okay, so I just did, you can see how the waveform, well, maybe you can't, it's a little small, changed to show that it's fading out there. But if I play the end and you listen to it, it got quieter there. So that's the other things you can do, is fading in and out. You can also take images and make them zoom and make them pan. If anyone wants to know how to do that, I can tell you, but I'm a little worried on time here. So the last thing is, once you're happy with your video, you go to export. It has presets for various things that you want to export it to. If you're just going to be watching it on a PC, you might want to do an MPG file. But if we're doing it on the web, we want to customize it for YouTube. And you'll see YouTube uses pretty high resolution versus if we select Facebook, the resolution is smaller there. You can select where you want to save it and what you want to call it. This export tab is also where, if you wanted to export just your video, or not, sorry, just your audio, you literally right click on it and do export audio, and you can save a separate audio file that way. Okay, so this is, okay. There we go. Sorry about that. Sometimes it's a little finicky when I try to move on from the slide where the recording was. This is another example right here, just a screenshot of one of the videos that I edited, and you can see at the bottom there, a more complicated timeline. Some of the ones towards the right where you don't see the waveform for the audio is because those are areas where I did speed it up for some time-lapse footage and just had the audio playing in the background. And that, we already covered the export slide. And that is actually everything that I had on here. But I do have the Audacity and the VSDC programs open on my computer if you need me to demonstrate something, or if someone has a more detailed question. I find myself with VSDC in particular, I'll go like a couple months without doing anything and have to watch the YouTube videos again myself as a reminder, or it just takes a while to kind of remember where things are in the program. But that is everything I have. So I think we can open it up to questions if there are any. I'm going to keep screen sharing here just in case I need to pull up any of the programs.
Yeah, the only question I saw in the chat box to this point was someone asked about the handout. And so just a reminder that in the chat box, I have put the link to the handout there. And I also just attached the file as well. So you can get it either of those spots. If for some reason you cannot see those in the chat box, it is posted on the iaswcd.org for districts page. So if you click and get onto that web page where the Lunch and Learns are posted, you will see a link to the handout there as well, and I will keep it posted up there. There is a question now. Do you see that from Teresa?
Yes, Teresa. So when you take out that noise in Audacity, anything you do in Audacity until you save as a new file, you can always click undo. It doesn't change the original audio file. At the end, you export it as a separate audio file. So you still always have the original audio file that you can go in and edit. Anything else?
Okay, there is a question that came directly to me in the chat box, and that is, which video editor is downloadable to USDA computers, Audacity or VSDC?
Audacity, I have not downloaded it to a USDA computer, but I was told by our IT specialist that there is a version available for USDA computers, but that is just an audio editor. If you need to edit audio on a USDA computer, I have a coworker that uses the Windows 10 video editor. I believe there is a link on the handout for information on that. I have never used it, so I didn't include it, but it should allow you to do basic functions. And of course, if you are screen recording, you can use PowerPoint for that. And Melissa mentioned Avidemux is the one that Lisa Bacon downloaded to her computer. So if you reach out to your IT specialist, they should have some things that are available. I had already used VSDC when I came to the SWCD a little bit, so I was fine having it on my personal computer and using it. And Joe asks, it always seems to take time and practice to become proficient. How long did it take you to become comfortable? I don't know if I'd say I'm comfortable. It depends how long since I last used it. You need to set aside some serious time, and it's a lot of just trial and error at first in editing. If all you need to do is, just trim the beginning and end of a video, or add some background music, it's not too hard. The things that get more complicated are when I've had, like say in the middle of something, I put in a photo that I want to fade in and then I want to fade out. Or on one video, I didn't have as good of video footage as I wanted. It was before, we weren't using a tripod and it was really shaky. So I included a lot of photos where I would slowly zoom in while I was talking or while there was background music. And that gets a lot more complicated and it takes me a lot longer to remember how to do it. Another editor that was mentioned in the chat, DaVinci Resolve is another free video editor. Alex, I don't know, do you know if that's available to use on USDA computers? Not sure, so if you need something on a USDA computer, consult IT and see, what they have available. I would definitely say I probably would not learn how to use VSDC if you know if you know that you need to be able to do something on a USDA computer. Spend your time learning the editor that you'll be able to access. I will say the one nice thing with VSDC, and maybe the reason that I chose to start learning it, was because there's so many YouTube videos. There's a wealth of knowledge to help me just teach myself how to use it. And if I'm ever trying to learn something new, I just literally type that question into YouTube, you know, VSTC video editor, you know, pan photo. And there'll usually be some videos for that. Sometimes they're older versions, so things might be in different places. I have also started on my personal YouTube account a playlist of video editing videos so that I can just have them saved on my account if I forget how to do something.